Good evening, folks, and welcome to Marshall Met, episode 34. And tonight, we got, due to Renee, have to give Renee credit here, he got GM Hockheim. And I had him on an FMA discussion. It was years back. But so stands the reason to have him on again. So let's, without further ado, we're going to bring him up. If you're watching, tell us where you're watching from. Smash that like button.
Ontario, Canada.
You do what?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Tourette. Is your Tourette's kicking in?
I think so.
Oh, it's funny. Hey, Jim, how are you? Is he? Are we not hearing him? We were just hearing him. What's going
Can you
on?
hear us okay?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
perfect. Okay,
perfect.
we're
There we
good.
Oh,
go.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
good.
I'm here. Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, we didn't know if you were if you want audio silence on us, incognito. So Renee Berrian. So Renee, did you have an opening question for GM? Or?
No, I've been following Hawk for quite a while and checking out his material and whatnot. I just thought it'd be a really cool person to have on.
Yeah.
Again, someone who spends decades of martial arts, but also his the work he did prior. So I guess maybe the best thing to do is just for the people who don't know, is give us you know a brief resume of where you started and whether martial arts and work wise and everything else.
Okay. I'll try to whip it all together. But as soon as I graduated high school, 1971, I got on a motorcycle and left the New York City area and wound up about a year and a half later in Texas and wandered into an Ed Parker Kempo Karate School.
Nice.
And it was very rarely were there schools there. Now, once you get into the community, you do discover there are other schools, but in the early 70s, but not like there are today, and not like there was perhaps even more of a variety like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So anyway, I started there, and for no other reason than I was just fascinated with fighting, and Inside Kung Fu was just starting on TV with David Carradine. But all the things when you're growing up, you see these fight scenes, and you kind of want to say, well, how do they do that? Why, how do they possibly do that? And so ever since then I went in the Army and I got exposed to a lot of defensive tactics. Military Police Academy had a boxing program that was not required, but since I'd already been going to karate, I decided I would do that. Got out, just did basic karate and jujitsu, uh, stand up old Japanese style mostly, and but I was always a little frustrated and but not disgusted, but frustrated because I was a cop. I immediately the whole time in the Army and in Texas, I was a cop, and I needed information that was not readily available in what we were doing in these martial arts. And so I think a lot of people back then were always hunting for the next best thing, the next, and you might say that could be fads, but it really, I don't think so. But you could think that, and things were, different systems were coming around, and Filipino martial arts was certainly one of them. And so in 1986, I started in with Dan Inosanto. And at that time, he was doing Pakiti Tertia. And then they switched over to Lameko. And then, of course, everything else that he was doing with the unarmed, he was doing Silat with Detoise and, Sawanda and all kinds of stuff. It was very, very fun. Thai boxing, they still have the same guys with Thai and Wing Chun. But and then, of course, back in my and then as a result of getting hooked up with that, and Inosanto had a tremendous influence on me very early on, as opposed to others, because he was so open minded, free, let's experiment. And so, but here again, I was arresting people. I was worried about fighting. I was worried about guns and knives, of course. But and so I just kept a sort of a generic combatives thing in my head that I needed to keep pursuing. 1988, I think 87 or 88, I started going to Remy Presse's seminars because the story with Dan is go to seminars, keep exploring, go everywhere. That just got in my head, and I realized that was really important. And so took many trips and a couple of Remy Price's seminars, of which, I was just somebody in the crowd. And I stumbled upon some guys from Texas, and they, during a break at a big hotel in Dallas at a Remy seminar, and they say, "Hey, do you know his brother?" Oh, I'd never heard of that. He said, "Well, come here, come here." And they pulled this big giant a curtain over from the rest of the group. And then I started doing Ernesto stuff. And so I was juggling a lot of stuff back then. By Paul Vunak, I was with Vunak 87 through about
Well,
92. I'm still a Vunak instructor. That's another long story. But through those years, he was revolutionary, and we won't discuss past 92. However, uh, I started traveling to the Philippines and began getting very hooked up with both Ernesto and Remy. And Ernesto loved that, but Remy was kind of an isolationist versus his brother at the time. These guys were testosterone driven. Imagine like family problems between brothers. And by the way, these brothers have competing businesses. So there was a lot of friction, between the two of them. So I just go now where, as Frank Sinatra used to say, I sing for my supper, and I will go anywhere that anybody wants me to go. And many times it's just Filipino martial arts. Other times it might be we say survival centric knife, whatever. I'm just able to pack up and go.
Nice. And
so
you're
you were with Vunak in '88, you said?
87, we started 88, we started hosting him, and just overwhelmed by the movies, the training films that you could see and stuff like that. And he
Hmm.
was very much in the direction I was interested in going.
Yeah, one of my instructors was training with him around the same time. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, and
Cool.
it was a lot of fun. And you know, yeah, once in a while you'll see a film of him today doing something, and he's still got a lot going on. He still gets in the groove, and like Tony Bennett sings a song, he just gets right into it. And I owe a lot to him, the thinking and the training and stuff like that. Now, since then, we've learned about concussions, and I have brain damage from being knocked out 14 times, and a couple of times really bad as a cop. And so back then, it was knees, elbows, and headbutt. And nobody really thought twice about the headbutts, but they're kind of dangerous. They're brain splash concussions with accelerated and decelerated injuries, the jello smashing in your skull. And so I kind of have a rule of the limited use of the headbutts. Do they work? Of course, but you could knock yourself out doing it, and sometimes in training accidents we've seen that. So that sort of motto of knees, elbows, and headbutts is kind of, I guess you could say, old fashioned. Nobody's to blame. It just the science wasn't out till those big football discoveries that they did
Yeah,
years.
it's
indeed.
strange because Dean was in my house once, and he kept telling me, "I dare you to headbutt me. I want to see what it feels like." And I was like, "Dean, have you not read the studies about the football players and what happens to
Oh,
them?"
yeah.
And he was like, "I don't care. I don't care. I want you to do this." So I did, and but
Yeah.
He
Well,
was
the first things that trickled out was we all thought was preposterous, and that was soccer balls, heads hitting children's head, hitting
mm,
soccer balls with their heads. And I just said, "What? What?" And then it just got worse with the football injury thing. And now you have a lot of UFC fighters that have it, and they've quit fighting early, and they're
mhm.
doing lighter sparring before the fights, and all these different reasons, for that. So I always, and my line is, God did not make your head to be an impact weapon. And in fact, our entire physiology is built to protect our brains and heads. And limited use. Does it work? Of course it works. you know, but we worry about it. It wasn't built to be tossed around like a
But
mace.
yeah, definitely not built to be a ramming instrument, right, or
Yeah.
tool. But Vunak, like you mentioned, so not just inspirational, but innovation, just trend setting. You know what I mean? Like everybody, if some shape, way, or form, if you do JKD, there's chances are that you kind of directly, indirectly were influenced by him. I know I certainly was. I was under that lineage, not directly through him, but somebody else. And the time period that you're referencing, he was on fire then. I
Yes. Yeah.
mid '90s when things, I dare I say, were slowly,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
he is way ahead of his
um,
time. Like
yeah, absolutely.
it's like watching an acoustic guitar finally get plugged into an amp. It was he
Yeah.
really
Absolutely.
Yeah.
he made it
Home
work,
Alive.
right?
So what now?
He made it work.
Yes. Yeah.
When he was doing stuff, it wasn't like you're watching somebody moving in slow motion and say,
Yeah.
"Well, this might take somebody out." Here's $50. Put on this motorcycle helmet
Yeah,
and let's go.
let's go into a bar and find out
Yeah.
what.
Yeah. Yeah. And there is a correlation. I've discovered some research, a sad correlation that multiple head injuries can be related to drug addiction. And obviously many other problems too.
Mhm.
But this is an interesting aside. I just have occasional migraines left over. It's a long medical story that I won't get into, but I've been knocked out 14 times. And then when you go to these neurologists and they want you to prepare this list, then you discover little slight impacts to the head can and I said, oh well, maybe there's more than 14 times. And so back then, it wasn't a surprise. Maybe once a year that you accidentally got knocked out in karate or something like this, and we just didn't think much of it. But you didn't try to knock your friend out. There would be an accident, and you would would suddenly, be waking up on the floor. So, and then of course it became obvious as years went on, to try to minimize that as much as possible. But
Yeah, this
anyway,
is
that's
common.
this is my 31st year of traveling. That's going to start, and I'm just lucky,
31 years. Wow.
31 years, yeah. And I accidentally discovered an old flyer of mine tucked away somewhere from like 99 or 2002 or something. And the list on it, the cities, the list I was going to, possibly 3 cities, 3 weekends a month. And I said, I can't believe that. That is just, you know, crazy. So
Yeah.
right now I'm trying to do every second week somewhere, and then of course a holiday comes and interrupts that, and so on. But I need at least a weekend off, 13 days or something.
Yeah, that's a lot. Like, I couldn't do it. Like, I give credit to people who travel well and do it frequently. I'm not that guy.
Yeah,
For some people, like, for instance, your XT, RIP. I mean, GM Remy, like, how many weekends
yeah,
in a given year he was?
yeah. He literally had no home for many, many years.
All the
Because, and
interviews I've done,
yeah,
that's
he was
been.
always gone, and that's how come so when he discovered that I went to the Philippines and got to know Ernesto, he teased me a little bit about it, but then he came over. That's when he knew me at a seminar. After others had told him he's just been at your house in the Negros Island. He's been there, and so then they just both Ernesto and Remy discovered I lived in the DFW airport area, which it's been written many times that they would, if I was hosting one of them, they would simply say, "Hook, can I come Wednesday?" And I was a bachelor. I said, "Yeah, sure." And they'd say, "Oh, can I leave the next Wednesday?" because they have no home. They have no place to go.
Mm.
Now Ernesto's traveling from the Philippines, but Remy was different. Then I'd get a call where they were traveling through, and I wasn't hosting them. And so I got to know them that way. Periodically they'd be staying with me just because I live near the airport.
Just
It
because.
reminds me of Guru Dan as well. When I hosted him a couple times, and I think one year he did like 50 weekends.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah,
Like he only took like Christmas and New Year's off or something like that. But the rest
yeah,
That's
time,
insane.
like that's insane. Like it's
yeah,
you never really get climatized to your house again, right?
Your
yeah. It
family,
could be very.
man. That's just you're
Could be.
constantly around. But some people do it. Some people can like navigate that, and they don't mind traveling. They embrace it. But me,
Yeah, I don't know
Especially if there's
why.
some motivation.
Well, that's a motivation. Yeah, the
we think
to
that's what it's got
paraphrase
to be
Orson
really
Welles.
motivating.
Yeah, to paraphrase also Orson Welles, who was sitting in a movie set, waiting to be go out on screen, go out film, and there was a younger actor with him, and they were waiting, and the younger actor says to him, "Well, this waiting is just terrible." And Orson Welles says, "They pay me to wait. I act for free." And I paraphrase that by saying, "I teach for free. They pay me to travel."
They pay you to. There you go. How
That's
come
kind
you
of
teach for
a mindset
free,
that I
but
got.
my traveling expenses are this much?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And so that anyway, that's kind of keeps me going. And then I'm just in this habit, and I am working. Of course, I need the money, and so I'm just in the habit of setting up. Now, COVID was terrible.
For
Yeah,
everybody. Ugh.
yes, I lost probably 55, 60% of the places I go, because some of them are in really restricted areas. Well, Europe, England was almost a total wipeout for me. Now I'm going back in April, but and Australia was terrible. I probably lost five places, and these guys just went out of business, and many
No,
of them gave up.
they
You
say
know,
30. They say a third
terrible.
of businesses went out in America. A
Yeah.
third of commercial businesses.
That's an interesting stat. Well, I can attribute to that, and
Mm.
so that's always hanging over my head is to regroup. And of course, I will soon be 73 years old. So, how much motivation do I have to regroup? You know, that's just
How many zeros are at the end for me to regroup?
yeah, yeah. To make that change.
Make
I've been lucky to travel quite a bit and do seminars and whatnot, but I'm finding it harder and harder to get back in the groove when I get back.
Yeah,
I got to be honest with you. I don't like being away from my family. I don't like
yeah.
it.
Well, I don't blame you.
yeah,
Yeah,
Just
I'm fortunately, my wife can come with me to several events, and then sometimes she can't. So it's pretty tough. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, I get the family thing too. You're away, and then you're thinking back to home, and she's doing everything, the carting of the kids. We
yeah,
homeschool, and it's just a bad equation. Even though she gives the blessing, but
yeah,
it's still, you know what I mean. You're away, and you're thinking like, and I can't help but not think like, okay, she's bringing so and so right now. Then she's got to go back out. You know what I mean? Then the guilt sets in, and
yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's horrible. Like I used to go to Europe and I'd be gone for a couple weeks or
yeah,
just a long way and whatever else. And when I'm out there, I see family. And then I was like, I can't do this. It's too long because my children are quite young. And then I went to Finland and I got there on a Thursday night and I left on a Monday morning and I came back like just destroyed. Just like
yeah,
I was at work, just a
yeah,
complete mess. It's like
yeah.
that's a long ways to travel for a weekend.
Yeah, I mostly occupy myself with writing. I'll just write my westerns, detective stories, and I'll do that on the plane. And then I try to write martial arts or combative stuff too. So
hey, that's a good way to
yeah,
occupy.
on the plane, in the hotels at night. That's what I'm struggling. And you talk about a tough business. The book business is terrible.
Oh, okay, okay. We're gonna ask. I was gonna ask because I remember recall you when I had you on a family discussion talking about that. But one question I want to just back up a bit. When you were in a sound blend, you're exposed to these different arts within the blend. You mentioned Lameko, and I'm a huge fan of Lameko. I don't think it gets enough due, personally. What did you find the biggest difference from your Anasano training and the methodology there to when you went to Remy and Ernesto? Was there a difference as far as approach?
Yeah, there was the with Dan, you get an isolated look at each system per system.
Mm.
Everybody's got their notebooks out. Everybody's writing the way this was and that was. And Lameko, suffers with Edgar's death, and the fact that there seems to be some sort of dictum that there's not going to be any promotions and there's not going to be any more future. It's just going to die because there's nobody officially carrying it on. But
I said that, and I got a bunch of grief for that. I got freaking crucified when I said that. I said, "Look, I don't want to be right." I
yeah,
go, but if people don't step up and propagate this system, it's
yeah,
going to eventually, it's
yeah,
going
yeah. And it's just kind of set up that way, and it's a pretty sad thing. But um, to kind of break it down, I was listening to another podcast one day, and guy really knew Remy Prices, but he didn't know Ernesto. And the host asked that question. He said, "What's the difference between the two brothers?" And of course, he didn't really know enough about Ernesto to say, but Ernesto was obsessed with trying to create the greatest Filipino martial art system that you could find. And he had a methodology to it. And I think it drove him kind of nuts, and it became an obsession because in the latter years he was changing everything. Let's change this. This was once a 14 count drill and double sticks. It's going to be 18. Oh, now it's going to be 22 because you got to squeeze this element in over here. And so he was constantly obsessing about single stick, double stick, knife, espadiadaga, mano mano. He called it the five major areas of play, and then this is what was so instrumental to me is and inspirational is that he really spent a lot of time trying to make one drill that everything could do, and of course. Spotty Daga is different than single stick. And then, you need 14 drills to be comprehensive in this one and 11 to be comprehensive. And that numbers game was always working on them. But the concept of trying to shrink everything down to its simplicity and, make as few drills as good as possible. So if you learn one pattern, you just squeeze it in other things. So that was a big thing that, gosh, I think Paul Vunak was interested in that too. But so Ernesto was very deep into that, and Remy, due to business, was only he really didn't like to do knife because he didn't want to be associated with sort of the criminality aspects of
okay.
knife, and you wind up doing a lot of single stick. And so he had his thing, and he stuck with it through the years. And of course, all the empty hand was really a combination back then of Sinawali boxing, taking the Sinawali patterns and making empty hand applications to it. And he was very close to Wally J, and they did small circle jujitsu.
Yeah.
And he totally embraced small circle jujitsu. If you'd go to a 4-day seminar, a day and a half would probably be, small circle jujitsu. So one was very, technical uh, and obsessing constantly, and Remy had his thing and kind of stuck with his thing.
So just so everybody, I've covered a lot of modern knees, and what you're saying is kind of in line with the previous guest. That single stick was the highlight, and Ernesto more on the double. Is that fair to say?
I would say, in the big picture, it's the big five.
The big five.
He was, yeah, he the big five things that I just laid out, and he wanted to get all that in, and it was just being a typical seminar, and Remy was the same way. Is it's
Mhm.
getting to be really really late, and or not late, like it's getting to be 5 o'clock, and maybe it's time to quit at 4:20. They never had enough time. So often trying to squeeze it in. This happened with Ernesto many times. He'd look at the clock and just try to rush you through a bunch of stuff, so you got exposed to it. So
Just
that's
for
maybe like
exposure.
one of the big differences on the Negros Island. Those two guys were regal. When you get there, we went once on a freighter, and one time we flew in, and you get there and you see everybody else around there, and they were just their posture, their look was regal compared to they were different. They were special people, you know.
It
That's
reminds me of when I picked up Dean at the airport a couple times. You know, the way he floats he floats through crowds. It's
just my GM, my
Spectacular.
aura. Just going through the airport, I was floating and gliding through.
Oh, right. Yeah.
yeah. He walked up and he handed me his bags and he said, "Where's
So
my
Renee,
Starbucks?" And I was like,
thank you.
So they
uh,
were. Ernesto had a tremendous effect on me because I got his commitment to trying to constantly improve, and you come to the conclusion that you don't have to just do this drill. The real mission is drills. So make up cool drills, you know? And really, that's what so many Filipino systems do. They have their own sets of drills. They're all good. And as the drilling is the important thing. And I do stick to only 4 or 5 or 6 myself, only when I can fit it into everything also. But Ernesto was a very big effect. And of course, Remy was too. He's very wise and gave me a lot of tremendous advice on all the crazy things that happen in the martial arts. And so they were. So if I'm teaching a Filipino seminar, it's a lot of Remy stuff, a lot of Ernesto stuff, and all those great things that Dan was doing and is doing with the Filipino martial arts. And so I wound up with Terry Gibson for years in
Oh, he was a
Tulsa,
legend, huh?
Oklahoma. And a lot of people, these are all people before the internet became
I
famous.
know Terry Gibson, the Sea Lot, and
Yeah, yeah.
man,
Yeah, he was a great guy, and of course, constantly battling
really
cancer.
sad, really sad, sad.
Yeah,
Mm. Wow.
so Dan still goes to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and sees some of those guys up there.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, just sad. We got a question in, Jim, and it's from Seth Raymond. He's kind of a small guy, but we're going to give him his. Why was the original Claw, the cat, replaced with the alley cat? How do they differ? I'm not really sure, but I'm hoping you know what he's mean.
Yeah, I know. That was
Okay, okay.
in the '90s. I made a movie about reverse grip, and the reverse grip, is kind of like a downward claw,
Mm,
and that was just a name. And the claw of the cat, and they're very similar. So basically, it's what I had nicknamed the reverse grip material.
gotcha.
And so in the act through the years of trying to, I used the combat clock uh, uh, as an unforgettable. I don't know if you heard my wife scream. She's watching the football game, so that scream down there is
I
from.
know.
I guess the Broncos doing well would be my guess, but through the years, I switched over to the combat clock because I could fit everything in that. You do the slashes, the stabs, and someone could walk new in the doorway, and you just say, "We're going to use the clock," and he'll never forget it. He doesn't have to memorize it. He doesn't have to do anything else
What
with
I
it.
use in my system, the clock.
Yeah, and
I'm
you
the
just
same.
it's perfect. I learned in the army, and
Mm,
and the Air Force uses it. Vertical, horizontal clocks. You get on the ground, you can use a horizontal clock, and so while that all starts to happen, I start unifying it all to saber grip, reverse grip, and in terms of the knife. And next thing you know, the names aren't as important anymore. It's just the reverse grip material.
okay. No, no. And that was, thank you for that. Brian, okay, I'm just catching up the comments. My apologies. So what, I guess, when did you actively, I guess, start teaching the police?
Well, in the let's try to get the times right. In the 80s, I was a regular guest at police academies in
At the
Texas.
police academy. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so like there would be I'm trying to remember now because it's kind of long ago, but different academies had different lengths. Sometimes there's 6 months, and so I was always on tap to cover three topics: uh, uh, mechanics of arrest, which allowed me to experiment with a lot of hands-on material, criminal investigation, introduction to criminal investigation, and arrest, search, and seizure warrants. And so they let me go to whatever academy it was, and I was always on tap for that. The mechanics of arrest got me able to do some physical stuff with people because the top of the topic, and then so through the VUNAC people, me and another guy started a school, and that would have to be 1989, and it was at a Gold's Gym, and we had a section of the school. That guy, as time marched on, his name's Ray Medina. He died now, and he's one of VUNAC's big guys years ago, and but he's a little flaky, and he would disappear for short periods of time, leaving me with it, and then he disappeared, and so all of a sudden I got this place,
Mhm.
that I was running 4 years, and so the story goes that the guys I met that were introducing me to Ernesto Prasis, a couple of them decided they had to go to the Philippines. It was going to be a long trip, and they called me. And so I was a detective for about 17 years during this time period, and I had all this comp time. Every time you work overtime, and they don't want to pay you,
Mhm.
and so this is the way it was back then. And so if you actually made the case, well, now they had to give you something. But if you were out and a case was not made, you didn't get anything. And
Mhm.
so and they would rather give you comp time than pay you money. So I had tons of comp time, hundreds of hours of comp time. And I said, yeah, I'm going. And so then I came back and people knew I had gone there and I had some rank and I just had a list. I said, well, if you'll do these 10 things, you can be a yellow belt in Ernesto Presas Arnistamano. Um, and its lineage from the Philippines, and I can do that for you. What? Because back in the, if you will remember, back in the 80s and 90s, very difficult to get any recognition in Filipino martial arts, and so many people wanted a backyard workouts, a garage school. They wanted
Mhm.
to add it to their schools, and it was impossible to get any credibility. And so then I said, well, if you'll do these other 10 things, 12 things, you'll get this. And if you do these 28 things, you can be like a basic instructor. And they just started paying me to teach it. And that's how I started traveling.
Oh,
Was by them being able to physically accomplish stuff rather than the kind of nebulous, elusive ways that it was done in the 80s and 90s. And so somehow during that time, police were also interested in some Filipino material and stuff like that. And so they knew I was a cop, and that's pretty much how I got into training police. How it expanded from there is kind of a mystery to me. I've taught at the South African Police Academy. There's only one. I've taught so many. I can't even think of them all. Many times to London Metro. Um, gosh, Belgium, the Italian police, just Australia, so many places, and it sounds like a lot, but this is over years. And
yeah.
so I guess the Belfast, Ireland Police Department that were so concerned about terrorism at the time, and why they contacted me. As people today they ask me, "Oh, you're going around. How does a guy in Italy know to contact you to teach?" And I said, "Well, I'm not famous. I'm just kind of known amongst a small, disturbed crowd."
It's a small, disturbed crowd.
And that is my answer to how that happens.
So
And of
did
course,
all the
Sorry, Hawk. Did all the
Yeah.
different departments have different things that they concentrated on, or was it pretty much generically the same?
Yes,
Like,
they do. Right now, in the early days, they were interested in an outside system and an expert, and it could be, some people were interested in Blauer and the Spear program, and so they
Mm.
were looking for, and there were others I can't think of them off the top of my head, but PPCT outsiders that could come in and possibly testify if there was a problem. But then they developed this money chain. You got to be recertified every year, et cetera. Then slowly, these agencies decided we're going to make our own systems. We're going to find four or five guys that do this that in our department and try to make our own systems. And of course, it all has to be approved through the city, county, state attorneys, and all that stuff. So you find that, yeah, they kind of have different interests.
Is that based on, like, for instance, I want, like, let's take South. You were in South Africa. Did they bring up a lot of the knife crime to you?
Well, they picked up. There's a lot of crime, and I would love to return there again and again, but uh, the airfare is like $2,000.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
It's
not
just
cheap.
ridiculous, and so the rand is so below our dollar.
Yeah.
At the times I was there, different groups and places, I'd have a bucket of money, just unbelievable, lots of
Because of the
people,
exchange.
and then I exchange it and I get $300.
Yeah.
So it um, but yeah, they have their own serious pack of crimes down there. Man on man rape is at 40%. I mean, you have used to be those car hijackings, and they kill you. They kill the witnesses so that they can't be prosecuted.
I hear
So
you. I
it's
hear
a
you.
real crazy place. Yeah,
Per populace, they say it's the most violent, like per populace, the knife attack, just crime in general, like the
yeah.
Cape Town flats. It's supposed to be horrendous. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, England is going crazy with their teenage gangs and so forth,
I
having
know a
knife
lot.
attacks.
I know. I know.
And so when
Terrible.
I go there in April, I want to do, of course, a segment unarmed versus the knife, and it's always tricky and it's not foolproof. So we try to do some stuff, but
One of the most difficult things to do in martial arts, empty hand against knife. If you're doing it with integrity and honesty, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Yeah.
And so a guy in Germany who was a cop, he was on the SWAT team. He says, "Huck, can you come over?" Yeah. I said, "What do you want me to do?" "Well, I want you to do unarmed versus the knife on the ground." I said, "Okay, well, let me find the cure for cancer first, and I'll get with you on this outline about that subject." And I did go and I had something, but
Mhm.
I equated like, oh, great, that's a real tough.
That is a tough one, and I do it. Burton's also got some great material, but it is tough. But
Yeah,
you gotta look at it. I mean, God forbid, you know what I
got to do
mean?
something.
Right,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
you have to do something. Yeah.
Yeah. My dad told me before training miles forbid, you used to tape measuring spoons to simulate a folding knife. Is that true? So what he's
Uh,
saying here,
so I've used a measuring spoon. What
no.
now?
So let me just make sure I'm articulating this correctly. My dad told me before train knives were available that you use tape measuring spoons to simulate a folding knife.
Well, I must have. I could say I could use anything before the training knives became popular.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know about folding spoons.
You must have.
But the one of the and I just wrote about this on my Facebook page and so on. The big problem of stress quick draws and the folder is a big problem. Opening the folder years ago, and probably still much today, no one considers the fact, oh, I've got a knife in my pocket, but you have to open that knife under stress. And so
Mhm.
now, of course, you have some gravity knives. You have the Emerson hook on knives that catch on pockets. A lot of people still don't even know that in their so-called knife guys carrying knives. And so anything that I could get to open, make people safely open something, I probably could have done. I don't remember using. There must have been some specials camping spoons or
Some
something. I don't
special
know.
camping folding spoons.
Yeah, something like that to make people understand. Okay, you're being attacked. I have it broken down in what I like to call the collision six problem. The six common stopping points of a fight from starting onto the ground. And I like to try to have people draw sticks, knives, and guns uh, within those six, and then try to stop a armed guy if you're unarmed in those six deals. Trying to figure out, looking for, feeling out when they might be, trying to pull a weapon. But that was just one thing I noticed about the Filipino martial arts and others too, is that so much training, the weapons magically in the hand, especially the
Oh,
stick.
you don't love that when they pop up right in front of somebody and like, how'd you get there? And all of a sudden, the knife's in their hand. And,
Yeah, and so nobody's not nobody, but many people are not highlighting the fact that you've got to be somewhere. And just the other day, the topic came up that someone was pulling a fixed blade training knife out of their sweatpants under stress of someone attacking him. Well, of course, if you just have a fixed blade knife in your pocket or stuck in your sweatpants belt line, it's just going to come out. But if you're living in the real world, there's a sheath involved if you have a fixed blade. And I almost beg people when you come to the seminar, wear the clothes you think you'll be fighting in. And if you have a fixed blade knife, bring a sheath because you're going to have to spend a little time pulling that thing out under stress. And it's just not going to come out, from a fixed blade knife come right out of your pocket.
Yeah, if I can jump
Happen.
in on, if you don't mind, if I jump in real quick on that
Yeah,
one, like I've seen a lot of people get cut with the waves because they deploy them up into themselves.
yeah,
Those neck knives, I know a guy who nearly gutted himself with a neck knife.
yeah.
Instead of pulling out, he pulled back and he actually cut it right across.
It's
Um,
really really worth practicing.
and even like we did one of those, cut a pig leg class, and a lot of people who had folders didn't realize that their folders had actually failed, like because of the way they were gripping the knife. The liner locks were depressed, or their back locks
Yeah,
were on their hand. I personally, I'm a fixed blade guy. I've seen too many of those things fail, and I've seen someone actually lose a finger from a folder. And yeah, I just think
yeah.
in stressful situations, or even environment, as far as I'm concerned, it's the fixed blade's the way to go.
Yeah, and it's. I think what did I do? What did I read? I could be wrong about this. It's either a $3 billion or a $36 billion industry of fixed blades around the world, and people want them. They want them in their pocket. I've been
or
in and
no.
out of military training deals overseas in the Middle East and everything, and their PXs are the military stores, and there's just a wall of training knives, fixed knives, not training knives, but fixed folding knives in the packages on the wall for sale, and these guys will have them. There's a new movement now in special operations to have that knife that is reverse grip with the ring on the top and a sheath in the center of their vest for easy grab, easy hand pull out.
Mhm.
And there are some accidents that happen when they have training knives too, and there's fingers are almost broken, when they're trying to pull that out and wrestling on the ground and all kinds of stuff like that. In our world, the stress quick draw is level one, along with knife selection, where we make that speech. What is the knife? So many times we'd be at a crime scene. Well, literally, I've always heard a very high percentage in the high 90s of knife crime is done with kitchen knives. And very rarely do you actually have a bought knife that a crime is done with. And so these knives, we would have a stabbing somewhere. And of course, there's nothing to protect the hand sliding up on the blade. The guy will stab a guy, the bone will hit, and the suspect has cut himself. And so we would like catch a guy fleeing or whatever, inspect his hands, and you'd see he'd have a cut. Plus, that means that he may have bled at the crime scene.
You
And
know, it's
I'm
funny
so
because even
old.
even going back to you're saying quick draws and everything else. Um, Especially when I was a bouncer, when there was a knife attack, the person already had the knife out. Like they were just looking to make contact so they can, do the work.
That thing.
Yeah.
So again, there's that fantasy sometimes I find that people are like, "Oh, he's got a knife. Let me magically deploy mine and get into this amazing fight stance." Well, you already probably been punctured a few times,
Yeah, well,
right?
same thing with a fight too. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, hell
I
yeah.
often
Hell
say,
yeah.
but if the guy stands there and he puts his fists up, it's a little late for me. The best quick draw in the world for a gun or a knife and a baton too, but the best quick draw is getting your weapon out just before you really needed it. And look at these criminals, will approach with the concealed knife and get
Oh
up
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And another thing that's interesting too is the in that collision six. So the collision one is really no contact, and everything that can happen from you walk up to trouble, trouble walks up to you. I even cover sniper range in that. And but there's no contact yet. It's a great place to categorize all that stuff. You want to say the term verbal skills or whatever, but all the clues that someone's carrying, he's going to draw, whatever. And stop two is a collision at the hands. Three is a collision at the forearms. Four is kind of an arms on shoulders, neck collision. You see typically, you look at the Vero Beach City Council and guys are fighting. You see these positions. The Taiwan politicians every year seem to have a big brawl in the Senate, their Senate, and you see these positions. Five is any bear hugs. Anytime the guy wraps you up, chest to back, right shoulder to his chest, left shoulder, chokes, any wraps, and six is ground zero on the ground. And I always make everybody draw their guns or knives in every one of those stop six positions. And because they a lot of times the fight starts unarmed and something happens, anger comes over, fear comes over. Something happens, they're losing, which is fear. I have a list of five or six things that happen that don't happen. But then in the middle of the worst part of the fight, the knife or the gun comes out. And so, yeah, they're not ready to take a dueling position, which is another thing of mine is, yeah, we got a duel. Dan Inosanto said years ago, dueling is best used for developing footwork. Again, the politically correct suggestion, we don't want to teach people how to knife fight or duel.
Yeah,
You know,
make knife fighters. Yeah, I would
yeah.
also go. Would you agree with me? I express dueling and sparring in my system. And my lens is how you're going to defend against a boxer if you don't understand boxing punches.
Oh,
You
absolutely. Yeah.
know what I mean? Okay, good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And of course, uh, the stick dueling is an art and a hobby. It's not likely that we're carrying a 28-inch stick on downtown Dallas and we get into an argument and a fight with another guy who happens to have a 28-inch
But you
stick.
couldn't Dallas. So,
But the footwork and all the stuff
yeah.
that is involved with it, you got to do it. You have to do it.
No, I totally agree. Plus, it's just fun. But
Hmm.
I was telling Renee that he got upset, and that's when he headbutted me. It's not the story he told that I asked for it. He got upset with me. And he's like,
And
Yeah,
again, well,
and
there's a
then you
reason I.
see people who start they're fighting. Jeff Cooper, the famous gun god from decades ago, he had to make the statement that said, we don't really know what happens in a gunfight because none of it is ever filmed. Well, my God, it's filmed now. We see it all the time, and
funny.
these people are getting into fights, and it's all chaotic, and sometimes there's a break and they're kickboxing or they're dueling. It can happen. It can happen. And so, because it can happen, it's worth messing around with.
Yeah, Renee is a full dog brother.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, good. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so Renee, like I don't know, you ever down somebody's ever like misled you and brought you to a basement or something. But
Yeah.
It's Spanish custom that when someone enters your house, you show them the house, right? So who am I to break my
That's right. It's
traditions?
very custom. And then you have the story of the the guy that gets his gun on the burglar, and the burglar says, well, what are you going to do now? Call the police? And then the guy says, no, uh, you're just going to die right now.
No, actually,
See,
no.
in Canada, it's a little bit different. The burglar
Yeah,
comes in, you make him a coffee,
yeah,
you
Tell 'em
show
where
him how
everything
many.
is.
It's like, okay, well, the
yeah.
Ford's got 140 miles on it. The Jeep's got 380. Um,
So,
anything here you like? I got some
Yeah.
bags here for you.
Yes, it's
oh my
different,
God, that's
and that's
just
another thing too.
thank you.
That one of my big missions in the combative aspects is to keep people out of jail. That's just become a real big priority. And one of the big things about that is where are you? And so, what's the city like? What's the county
Mm,
like? What's the state? And of course, what's the country?
legality, politics, right?
Yeah,
All that good subjective stuff that you don't think about, you know?
yeah, and you
Well,
can't,
people don't realize how long that kid will stay with you. Like I've known of people who've been in altercations where that follows you for years, like even
yeah,
decades sometimes, where you think it's over, and then it's like, oh, they're suing you for something else now, or they want to
Civil
talk to you about something else.
suits. Hey,
yeah,
there's a question for you, GM. Have you had to deal with people get off criminally and now comes a freaking civil suit, even though they were exonerated for self defense? Have you had
yeah.
to deal with that? Isn't that
It's
terrible?
never happened to me,
Oh,
but and I have been sued while I was a detective and in patrol, and it all fell through. Uh,
mm.
I've written about it in one of my
I
police
just think
books,
it's terrible.
but that could certainly happen. It happened to OJ. It's happened so many times to different people, and the preponderance of guilt is easier in civil court.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Okay, okay. I guess mine's from a self defense lens. Like there was this gentleman in Michigan. I don't know the exact time for the year, but he got accosted by four. They were younger football players. I guess he had to pull his knife. He was exonerated criminally.
yeah,
Freaking went after him civilly, and it's just like God
yeah.
Almighty, you know.
What about that family that sued like it was four teenagers that broke into someone's house and he shot them? And then the parents sued or were trying to sue him, saying, "Yeah, they were going to rob him, but there's no reason to kill him, to have him
Yeah,
excited."
yeah, that you hear stories like that. Yeah, yeah, and it's a show. The courtroom cases are just like a play, and the personalities of the prosecutor and the defense lawyer and stuff like that. It's a real tricky deal.
Man, I tell you. So how about the cane? You teach cane, right? What,
Like walking cane, I can.
okay, okay.
It's mostly I will do stick. Axe handle. There's a really short or axe handle that's about 28 inches. They don't have them in stores. They sell them bigger, but you can get them on the internet, and it's just beautiful to hold in your hand. It's like a
Mm,
sword. It's got a curve at the handle, and it's just a great deal. And batons, expandable batons.
the baton.
And when
That's
I'm
maybe
doing, I have a like survival centric stick, and there's not really a lot to it. If you excise dueling out of sticks, there's not a lot of material there. And so basically, I have stick versus unarmed, stick versus stick, which is not a lot of material, stick versus knife, and stick versus gun threats. And so a lot of people like the hook on the cane. And after you're doing Filipino martial arts, I don't want a hook. I just, don't. It seems to get in the way to
I
me,
think
and
it's
I
a
know
really
people love it.
tricky. That's a
Yeah,
really
I
tricky
know
muscle.
people love it and everything, but uh, and of course, yes, you can carry a cane everywhere.
See what I
But
mean?
in some cases, like I had a hip replacement 14 years ago, and if I had to take the cane off the ground, I'd fall over. And so old people are the same way. And of course, there's always that suggestion that, oh, the criminal thinks, oh, there's a guy with a cane. He's weak. He's an easy robbery, that kind of thing. And so it's a tricky business.
It
I
I'd
had
really
rather
a I
have
had a
one than
cane
not if I'm in trouble. But yeah,
I had a cane fight, and the one that we fought with was a hook. It had a hook on the end, and I love the momentum that hook builds up when you crack somebody with it. But you're absolutely right. There's a couple times where they just got caught on each other, and it
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
one of those like, what do we do, right? It becomes a finally. So, anyways, I was
Oh my gosh, because I wanted to get into his feelings on Kane, realistic self defense, what Burton came out with, which I thought Burton got a lot of grief for it, but I thought it was genius what he did, putting it with
which
another
was
weapon.
that?
Because what's that?
Which was that?
The Kane program. So what Burton came out with was Kane in conjunction with another, because he was going from the lens, you truly need this Kane. You got off balancing issues, you're truly injured, or you have extreme difficulty walking. So you got to think about it. If that all is the case, how are you going to generate power? Right? You
Hmm.
know that from stick. So he put it in with I was there in Hawaii helmet, and I thought it was brilliant how he said yes, you can use it initially, but you better have another weapon if you fall under that criteria of like balance,
I
difficulty
hate to say
walking.
it though, like the law enforcement nowadays, they're not stupid. Like they're if they see a cane, they're gonna be able to see whether what kind of cane it is too,
Yeah,
right? Like, yeah.
I'm just gonna see. If, I'm gonna message him and just see if he's.
I just got a message from him actually.
Oh, good, good, good. What's
Yeah, he
the?
says, "Sorry, can't stand Dean. Gotta go."
Oh man, I know. I understand that. I understand
What,
that. After
what's
6
up
years,
with that?
I think it's just 6 years of me doing this. People just they're starting to
He's
dislike.
like, "Want to hear more about basement?" I don't.
I don't know either, man. All right, let me message him then and just see. God, I tell you, good pick, man. That was really I was really enjoying listening to him. Let me GM. Can you get back in? In the meantime, while waiting that, what can we talk about? So, oh wait, I think is that you or him? Oh, that's you. The fact that he's not seeing that would lead me to believe
Maybe his computer died or something. Power.
that battery, yeah, just because he's not even seeing this.
You want to try calling him?
Um, can't hurt. Let me, yeah, why not? Let me do that. What can we entertain the audience while I'm calling?
Honestly, I'm really looking for some good rib recipes. So if anybody has any good rib recipes, please let me
Rip,
know. Yeah, ribs. I got a giant rack of ribs in my fridge.
you're going to have to get somebody south of the border, or not south of the border, but south of the Mason Dixon line or out in Missouri, KC. Let's see if he answers. God, that was getting good. Too bad.
I'm working on someone else as well. Someone who just started a security company. He used to work for the government, couple different agencies.
Wednesday, I could bring on Chad Bailey. He runs a camp in Florida annually, and actually, I
Yeah,
was invited to go this year. I couldn't just because Roman's going to be in Boston with the wife, and I got to stay with Sophie. But I was thinking bring him on this Wednesday.
sure.
It's not just FMA centric. I just called. There was no answer, so something is going on, unfortunately, which is too bad. Because yes, folks, I'm not sure. Hopefully, he comes back, but he's not seeing my message, or nor did he answer. At any rate, so under a couple years, people asking me and hemming and hawing. I'm going to do my first. I did seminars in Blade Tech with the
Hmm.
people I generally knew, or I've always kind of been like protecting this and kind of ridiculously in some regards. So I'm going to offer group class and see how it goes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually. Oh,
Hey, GM, can you get back on? Yeah, yeah. It must. It can't be anything that's. So, can you try to get back on? So what you got to do is just take the same. You can use the same link and just copy and paste it to your browser. Yeah, Oh yeah, 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 absolutely. Okay, you're in.
Okay, three, two, one.
You're in.
Okay,
You're
wow.
back.
Yeah, I was just sitting here with my arms closed, and
I'm like,
suddenly
what
I
happened?
disappeared.
Could have been just this dumb glitch or something. Who
Yeah,
knows?
You
something
know,
like
Dean does this sometimes if he doesn't like where the conversation's going. He
that.
just like
I'll just,
you're
and
like,
they won't know it either, GM. I'll just be like this. I'll just scroll down, hit the X, and okay,
That's right. You
guys,
don't
I
know
don't
when
know.
it's going to happen.
there's been a few times I thought his screen was frozen, and it wasn't until I saw like his wife walk in the background realized he was just
Oh
acting. He's like,
God,
Ruined it for him. Ruined it
lies,
for him.
lies,
That's
all
right.
lies. Don't believe it,
sure it
GM.
is.
So we were getting into. I was going about to ask you before Renee xed you out um, about the cane, and I guess my issue is with from a pure self defense, and I'm going from a really specific here. I'm going with that you legitimately need this. You have a balance issue. You have an injury. I mean, so how are you going to generate power if there's going to be
Yeah.
a balance in there? And so, is it need to be supplemented by another weapon? In other words, okay, maybe you hit out of there, but ultimately, I think it'd be right.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
And
Okay.
yeah, they I don't know if we got cut off at that point, but if you really need a cane, you really need a cane to walk with, and you're really incapable of fighting with it. And then, of course, there's a lot of stories about it. But well, here's one. A guy at a bar really beat up somebody with a cane, and the story was he really needed the cane. And so the damage was pretty bad. The district attorney, as in my case, the DA just sort of let it go. Then it happened about 8 months later, and I was presenting cases to the DA, and he said, "Does he really need that cane?" And I said, "I don't think so." Well, he said, "Find out. We're going to arrest him if
Ooh.
he doesn't need it." And then, of course, you have the situation where you go out and you buy a combat cane, and it's carved in
Yes.
the side, head splitter, Series 9, and then you use that to defend. It's just like the old Widowmaker versus the Peacemaker pistol.
Mm,
You'd rather have to shoot somebody with the Peacemaker rather than the Widowmaker because the jury thinks of these things. That gets
mm.
presented to the jury, and
No,
they
I was just doing some target practice with my whole saw rounds that I bought.
yeah, there you go.
Wow, yeah, it just it's like, and I get people like I never doubt like their integrity, and all that. I never go that far. Like I'm sure they have the best interest for their audience in mind. I truly believe that. I really do. But it's unrealistic if the person is really elderly and they have a balance and they can't walk. How's it
Yeah,
going to generate? It's like, matter of
yeah,
fact, I actually think it actually can get them in further dilemma. Actually, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So,
It's a tricky mess. It's a tricky thing, and being a dog brother, these guys take a beating with a stick, and they just can keep going.
there, so
It
I
makes
think,
you wonder how
yeah, like right. I mean, there's some
yeah,
tough dudes, man. The few that I've scrapped with, man.
The uh, the initial hit, the first time you ever go out, it's when you realize what you can actually get, while you'll survive. A lot of it is just in here, and a lot of
yeah,
it is the bullshit programming that our teachers gave us. Where it's like you get hit in the arm, your kids will be born with curly hair. It's like,
yeah, yeah,
or it'll blow your arms apart. You'll remember, having like Eric when he teed off my ribs. Sure, they broke, but I still kept going. Like it was not
yeah,
like one of those like I have to stop now. It's like that's when I realized you're in a fight.
yeah. Yeah, there's
It's
a lot of great stories and lessons in all of that.
yeah, and going back to what you were saying with the Bone Crusher 5000 cane, like the knives that I have, it's all like Amazon stuff. I don't need anything. I don't need a $500 knife. Like it just to me
Yeah,
that
you
makes
don't.
no sense.
You don't.
And
Yeah.
when I watch like some of the like I watch a lot of videos. There's one particular prepper that I like to watch, and the things that he does, he just uses stuff that he has around the house. He
Yeah,
doesn't have crazy gear and everything else. It's like it's not a show for him, right? It's like he has to use what he has within his house in order to survive a situation.
yeah,
And that is a lot more realistic to me than a guy showing up with, his $500 Asterix jacket and,
yeah. Well, the
his
shooting range.
Bailey shotgun. Yeah.
These guys show up like they're going into Cambodia for 2 weeks, and which leads me back to something I didn't say. Is reduce the abstract, and you can't train to play football wearing a baseball uniform, and you should really go to these classes and seminars in the clothes that you think you're going to be fighting
Mm,
in. And even with the police guys, they'd show up with their police belt, a t-shirt, and sweatpants.
yeah, I'm guilty.
And we you really need to go a little bit. And they would wear a belt. They bring the police belt and a rubber gun. And so I started switching out the rubber guns with wooden rubber band guns that shot. And you could do 50 repetitions and get hit in the eye 40 times with the rubber band. It doesn't hurt, but you can figure out, problem solve with reps in combat scenarios. And so why just have a fake pistol that doesn't shoot when you can have a fake pistol that does shoot?
Mm.
And by the way,
Yeah.
it's only like $12. So I
It's
traveled with a big box of wooden rubber band guns. So in the 90s, I was accused of, playing with toys and so forth. And then I'd go to, the big police training thing in Chicago, and there'd be a bunch of people there. And then they started buying those guns from me because they get the idea, hey, we could train with these things, see where the shots land, pull on the ground, and they're wood. They won't bend, they won't break. And so finally, through time, it became totally acceptable. Usually at events, I'll sell a bunch of them, and you can. It's pretty clever. Meanwhile, and I'll show you this. These guys are selling these now. I just bought these as an experiment. It looks like a Lego gun,
Hmm.
right? And it has a magazine, and it has bullets that are spring loaded, and so I'm always on the hunt for something I can find a little more realistic, a little thicker, that's more like got a better hand grip on it. And, it'll shoot, the slide works. It'll work better when you have ammo in there. The bullets only go about 10 feet. I was interested in that. Uh, and that's a lot of our combat scenarios. That's as far as we have to shoot. This is obviously a toy. You're not going to get arrested at the airport with it. But if I had 30 of them, it would be suspicious. And a lot of criminals, not a lot, but some of them are spray painting their guns to trick people to thinking
Oh,
that they're toys. Anyway, it's a little too fragile. I think I'm going to write a review about it. But I'm all for the safety and the ability to reduce the abstract, pull something that looks real, feels real, and then functions real because you can screw up the slide, you lose the magazine, it only holds 8 rounds, you have to have a second, all those different things that are pretty important. So anyway, I'm always on the hunt for some kind of gun that I could use to enhance the training a bit.
we speaking of like wearing what you train with, we had Dean come out for a seminar and he's wearing like a gorilla onesie. And I'm not here to judge,
You're
right?
not going to be critical of that.
But I'm like, man, like you're gonna get into fights wearing that. You know what I mean? Like I personally, I'm like a t-shirt and jeans kind of person, right? So that's
Yeah.
me. But when he showed up, it kind of threw some of it off,
I
some
know,
of us
but
off.
look how many people came to the seminar because they were so intrigued by my outfit that they
Right.
came.
And then the next one to see what you're wearing then. I know.
Oh, well, there's another, never mind. I won't say it. But
GM, all lies,
yeah,
hyperbole,
Okay.
lies, lies, and
yeah.
more lies.
Lies,
It
lies,
was based
lies.
from a Pulp Fiction movie. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
But
Uh,
Um, so you're writing books and all that. What do you got cooking, or what have you like for folks who might not know? What have you published?
Well, 21 books so far. And
Wow.
I have a knife combatives book. It's got over I think like 13, $1,400, 14 how-to photos in it and a breakdown, saber and reverse. I believe everybody should learn saber and reverse grips, and then you decide what your favorite grip is. But
Mm.
I think it's kind of important to know both of them and the different combat scenarios. I have modules and like that. They're almost identical to the impact weapon combatives book, which doesn't have to be that big, but I try to make it in the spirit of Ernesto. Drills that resemble each other. You learn one thing one here, you just change the weapons, and you do it as much as you can. It's never going to be perfect. And then, oh gosh, I got a footwork book, hand stick knife gun footwork book, which footwork is sport footwork and obstacle courses. And then I have a Western series of a guy that does pretty well. It's a terrible business though, but it's after the Western gunfighter of the say 1895, after the Western gunfighter and just before the noir detective, that period of time, these are the men that solve people's problems. And he's a military vet, and he's in Fort Worth. He's got a detective agency, but it's a unique time. And I have six big adventures. The sixth one I'm working on, uh, uh, and then I got three fiction detective series that is sort of a dirty Harry, Raylan Givens justified kind of character in Texas. Oh my gosh, and a couple of other solo books. And so, if I was left to my own devices, I would just go into my attic here. And just write westerns.
Oh,
If
no kidding. Okay.
perfect world, that's what I would do. So, but I'm trying to put together an unarmed combatives book, and it's coming along. I may break it down into three different levels or something like that. So I'm constantly, writing constantly.
No, no, that's awesome. That's wow. To westerns, huh? Westerns would be it, huh?
Yeah, possibly, or maybe the detective guy.
Or the
So I've been
detective. Yeah.
published by several publishers through the years. Most of them went out of business, and right now I'm with Wolfpack Publishing in Las Vegas and Piccadilly Publishing in London, England. They have a whole Western series over there that's different, kind of like the 1960s. It's called Renegade General, where a lieutenant general goes AWOL, and he just travels around, has adventures. Bounty hunters are after him, the army's after him, and that's a really fun series to try to write.
Sounds like
So
Renee's life. I mean, I'm sorry. No.
Sorry, I'm only laughing because my dog's going crazy and is basically driving my wife insane right now. So,
okay,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
okay.
Renee, you got a
And
question? Go ahead. I'm
I was
sorry.
just I was just questioning some of the stuff you do with the firearms for the training. Is it both for like semi-autos and revolvers, or do you have different tactics for that?
Well, I have to explain that, yeah. And see, I started out in the old days. We just had revolvers. I am so old that I was on street patrol when Adam 12 was a primetime television show.
Oh my God.
That's how old
Adam
I am.
12. I
And
remember that.
so all we had was revolvers. You could not have a semi-automatic. Well, they called them automatics. And then I went in the army and patrol. You had 45s, and I was an investigator in the army, snub nose 38s. And so that's when I really started liking the snub nose 38s. So then I go to Texas, and it was revolvers only. So we all had 357 Magnum revolvers, pretty much.
Holy cow!
And then we got into a big shootout with two armed robbers. It's a long story. We chased them, and a guy couldn't reload his revolver fast enough and was almost killed. And so the administration reluctantly allowed us to have semi-automatic pistols.
Mm.
And so, that but both are out there, and I never teach target shooting or bullseyes or anything like that. I just do simulated ammo combat scenarios. That's all I want to do. Go train, go shoot bullseyes with somebody else. uh, and
Mhm.
I'll just come in and we'll fight on the ground over pistols,
Over pissed.
and
Yeah.
then but we have scenarios like a restaurant robbery, stairway to heaven, where you chase one or two or more people up a flight of stairs, and then after about 10 scenarios you switch, and then this group becomes the chase people, and everybody gets smarter and smarter, and there's ambush on the stairs like that. We have a VIP rescue. Oh my gosh, there's so many different maybe 12 of them. One of my favorites is Walmart Madness, where everybody that's in attendance parks their car on a usually a secluded parking lot or behind a school or something, and hopefully there's going to be 15, 16 cars. You put a guy with a gun on one end and a guy with a gun on the other end. They try to kill each other, and that's electric pellet guns will not hurt cars, but BBs and gas pellets could hurt cars. So everyone has to have an electric battery powered gun. And it's fascinating. Sometimes it's over real fast. I was at one place where we had a lot of military veterans mixed with citizens. A woman that sold Amway killed everybody all day long. She was clever. She was smart, and so I'll let everybody do it once, and change people. And then I'm thinking the next round, the winner stays. So two guys, two guys. These are usually majors because it was near the War College in Kansas City. And so Army majors, vets, they kill each other, kill each other. Okay, the woman goes in. She kills the major. Next major comes in. She kills that major. Just by being clever and sneaky and running around the cars. And then there
Mm.
were civilians there too. But when it was all over, the Amway saleswoman had shot everybody. So
Shit.
it's pretty fun. That was one of my more memorable adventures on that. But that's very popular and could happen to anybody. A parking lot shooting, it just could happen to anybody.
That's neat that you like try to come up with these scenarios and mock situations like that.
Yeah,
That's
that's reducing the abstract. What the working on the probabilities, not so much the possibilities.
yeah.
And
I like
so
that.
anyway, that's pretty much what I do with the gun stuff. And a lot of police like to do that too. Um, and so that's another corner of training that I can have and do.
Mm.
It's funny you say that because we used to play a lot of paintball back in the day, and we also had the paintball pistols, the Titans.
Yeah,
And what we would do is like we'd have a full on game where everybody's got their full on their full auto guns and everything else, their markers, whatever you want to call them. And then at the end of the day, at the end of the night, we would give everybody 3 rounds and a pistol, and it completely changed the way that we're playing because you're not
yeah,
dumping ammo anymore. Now it's a thinking person's game, right?
yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, the that live fire thing is important. In a perfect world, if I'm with someone, 4 hours live fire lunch, 4 hours me doing this other stuff. And there are factors that I list that are going to be different. There's no explosion, there's no blast, and usually we're so close that if you had a gun fire at you that close, crap would shoot up your nose, smoke was gas, your clothes flap. Just being so close to it's just different with experiencing being shot at that close. And so and that way they kind of get that lesson. They've done the live fire and they realize the sound can be really disruptive. So
have you seen the chicken bones on the revolver video?
I don't think so.
Yeah, they taped a whole bunch of chicken bones around the cylinder revolver because people are saying, like
Yeah,
grabbing onto the revolver, and when they
yeah.
shoot it, it just disintegrates the bones.
Yeah. Well, that's
I thought
because
that was pretty
there's
cool.
openings on the sides of the revolver. The last disarm that I did, I was a private investigator at the time, was do a push pull on a guy that had a Bulldog 44 revolver, and he was a part of a business owner. The business had closed, was under a judge splitting it up, and this guy showed up to take his 1/5 without the judge telling him or whatever it was going to be. out in the West Texas somewhere. Anyway, long story short was another guy ran up and grabbed his arm. He had that gun in his arm, and I think he was thinking that if he pulled the trigger, everybody would jump back. So the gun was up. So I went in and I grabbed his wrist and I grabbed that gun, and I push pulled, and I said, I remember saying, "Give me this," He as he pulled the trigger, my eyes must have been closed because obviously there's a tremendous flash, but it's over real fast. And anyway, I pulled the gun out. Long story short was I went in the bathroom of the office much later, and down the side of my face there was all these like star pattern red explosions from the force of that blast on the side of my face, and like the blood vessels had popped, down on this side, and of course my ear was shot. I mean, this side was, I can't even make the sound. I can't even make the sound that it made. And that's part of the reasons I have these hearing aids on. A lot of gunfire and Jimi Hendrix.
And Jimmy,
But yes, the revolver blasts out. And whereas the semi auto, if you disrupt the slide significantly enough, and it's not that much. So one of my films, gun films, I took my 45 ammo out, made it ready, put the slide back a tad, pulled the trigger, it clicked, it fired. It would have fired. So okay, I set it up again, pulled it back just a hair further back, click it, pulled it back another hair further, it was out of battery and it wasn't going to work. So if you can mess with the slide and even prevent it, from moving, you render the gun to a one shot or no shot.
Unless it's a P90. Sorry, the Sig,
Yeah.
which just likes to shoot itself. But
Yes. Yeah,
I
it
have the
will go
first
off by
edition.
itself.
It has a 320, sorry.
Yeah.
Likes to shoot itself. It's pretty awesome.
But anyway, that's all. That's survival centric gun. I have survival centric hand, survival centric stick, survival centric knife, survival centric gun, and those are kind of the big things. And then I have essential Filipino martial arts, where we just cover a lot of those big five areas of play, that Ernesto kind of talked about, and that's always a lot of fun for me.
mm,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I got a chance to go to a training facility not that long ago, and they had one of those. It was one of those simulation rooms where
Yeah,
you're wearing the electric the pads on you.
yeah,
So when you get hit, they go off.
yeah,
Yeah, that was really interesting. I,
yeah,
I I got a chance to get tased once, and it felt pretty similar.
yeah,
And it was not because I was committing a crime. It was just,
yeah.
just basically, it's just one or two
The
hydraulic.
I was at a teaching at a counterterrorist thing in Berlin, Germany, and there people were selling the military lots of different products. And one guy had suits, a big computer control board. This is kind of a while ago, and everybody had cameras on their helmets. And what was interesting to me is you had on a rather long vest, and there was woods next to the facility, and they would like go out five guys versus five guys. And what was interesting was you could get shot in the knee, which had nothing, no sensors on it at all, and somehow it lit up that you were shot, and also shot in the foot. And a lot of times, your front half of your foot will protrude from a doorway or a tree or whatever, and you don't even know it. And so professionals need to look for that possibility. And it just amazed me that there's no sensors on the guy's shoe or the guy's knee, but yet it lit up, that he was shot. And so they were selling that for a lot of money. Who
mm,
knows if anybody bought it or not, and how creative it is now.
yeah.
Man, just imagine, right? If they're selling that back then, who knows what they have now, right?
Yeah, it's just amazing.
So, so what do you got coming up? Like you mentioned England, right?
Yes, I got as the world turns,
Literally.
January is terrible because most of my people are paying off their Christmas bills. So there was a guy in Abilene, Texas, Lou, who just passed away from cancer, and he collected money, 5, 10, $25 from each person in the school, so that in January I could go there because he'd
Mhm.
already collected that money. And so now he passed away. And so I'm usually unemployed in January. I'm writing books and hoping they'll sell and doing other things. But in February, I'm going to Philadelphia, and then March kicks off. I have a apostrophe America, like America, seminar in Nashville at the Royal Range every year, and I just do Western Hemisphere martial arts or
Mhm.
martial stuff, and so that's in the middle of March. April, I'm in Germany and England, and May, Colorado Springs. Then it really starts to kick
Oh
off.
wow! So okay, well, they're keeping you busy. Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's true.
No, no. All right, all right. So,
So I have a question. With all the experience that you have and everybody you've trained with, what would your suggestion be to people out there who are looking for people to train with? Or if you're looking for a teacher or a school?
Well, I think for one thing, it's pretty important to try to know it's the who, what, where, when, how, and why, which I see life through. And years ago, when Steven Seagal came on the scene and he had Out for Justice, the first movie, everybody wanted to learn martial arts, and everybody turned in the local Taekwondo school
mm,
and had absolutely no idea what they were doing. That's not what Steven Seagal was doing. And so they sign up, and that's a big thing right now. Try to figure out what you're really interested in, and that is going to decide if you're going to be happy or not. Or you may just do that and fall in love with it, and do that the rest of your life. But I always ask, is that what's the IQ? What's your martial IQ on this question? What is it that you really want? Most people just want to be able to defend themselves,
mm,
and so that's the first suggestion. I would say really know what you want to do, and then I guess you could just type in on the internet the subject matter and who's near you. There's that magic 5 mile demographic of schools, and so it's usually not so good. And I tell people you're going to have to travel. You're just going to have to go.
mm.
My previous wife who had died, she was like my always answered the phone and talk to people, and they would always say, "Well, when is Hawk going to come to Seymour, West Virginia?" You know, and so she'd say, "Well, Hawk would like really to be able to parachute right into your backyard. The best he can do is get somewhere near you once in a while, and so you're just going to have to travel to see him." And she had a great way of saying it. It's just
Which
like
is
that.
something that it's just something now people don't really have to do anymore, right? Like back in the day,
Yeah,
No,
you had to travel, and
yeah,
I think that's why a lot of the older martial artists, like myself, get upset about some of the stuff that goes on. It's just they ain't cut their teeth, right?
yeah.
They sat at home, and and all of a sudden there's somebody teaching whatever. Like just I don't know. It
Yeah,
bugs the hell out of me. I
yeah.
think it's great in one way, but I feel that some people just don't appreciate what they actually have. Not as
Oh,
far
yeah.
as me having to travel or whatever else. I'm saying like you don't know how hard it is. Like even like it's amazing that you can go down the street, throw a rock, and you'll find a Filipino martial arts instructor. Back in the day, like
Yeah,
it was hard. It was next to
yeah,
impossible.
yeah,
And to find a good one, let me rephrase that.
yeah. And today they have so many BJJ schools, at least around me, as to what I could see. When I was in the Philippines, I saw many judo, karate, taekwondo schools, and
mm,
almost no Filipino stuff.
I
And,
isn't it sad? Right in your own country.
yeah, and they're right in their own country. And so, and of course, Remy and Ernesto were multi-talented in that regard. They got black belts in all these different martial arts, and
Mm,
so that really added to their skill level.
yeah, yeah.
Are you
Wow.
still active in their organizations at all, or?
Well, not yes and no. I'm kind of an outsider, and
It's probably a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sort of an outsider. I have some opinions that I tell them, but there was a split. Oh, he's with Ernesto. Oh, he's with Remy, and now it's not quite that bad. I only have a second degree black belt with Remy Presses himself in person, and then our third degree black belt with Ernesto, and from him, not any other downline people or anything like that. So there was that sort of schism years ago, but it's not that bad now. And so I'm still friends with all of them, but I'm not. I just can't commit to one of them. And I just wrote the other day that you always hear this about, oh, he was like a father to me. Oh, he was like an uncle to me. The healthiest thing I think to do is look at a martial art leader and a martial art system, but a martial art leader like a quarterback on your favorite team. He's not your father. He's just a quarterback. He's very talented and smart and can show you a lot of stuff. And sometimes they win. And I think that's just kind of a healthy look at the martial arts, which really, doesn't happen a lot. There's the
Yeah,
hero
well,
and all like that.
when Dean came to my house, he's like the uncle who eats all your who eats who eats all your food and then wants a ride to the airport. So
Yes,
I that's a good way of looking at it.
that's a
Well,
good.
and then you forced me to have that terrible donut. I mean, in the way,
Okay.
And my last dog attacked him. It was a good time. For me, it was fantastic.
Good time was had by all. Oh, boy.
I think you're right, though. I think some of these guys, they just get put on this pedestal like godlike
Yeah.
figures, and where you actually lose yourself or under like what's really going on here.
Yeah.
And having interviewed many, many folks in Modern Nice, I think a lot of them made Remy this godlike figure.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying obviously he was impactful in their life, obviously, right?
Sorry, are we talking about JKD?
That too, but yeah, and I'm cautious to say this because who am I not being under him and never experiencing him? Although I
Yeah.
did meet him once, but it does seem, and not just Remy's case either. There's other instructors that have
Oh,
been
yeah.
extremely glorified and put on this pedestal. But yeah, much to your point, I don't know if that's the best thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you get to know them, they have terrible, they're have family problems and, they're just regular people that,
At the end of the day, right? You
yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean?
That
Yeah.
just can, like a sports player or something like that. And
So
then
what
that's
you,
another thing too that I had written is that when you look at it like sports teams and quarterbacks, you can make some comparisons like on a sports show. The Miami Dolphins quarterback sucked this year. And you and Josh Allen did pretty well. He's in the playoffs. They probably lost, but it's
they were
downstairs.
down last time I checked with Denver. So yeah.
Yeah, and so you can talk smack. You can like a sports show. That guy's really good, and this guy's good at that, and he wasn't so good at this. And
Mm.
so if you look at it like a sports show, and these people are like quarterbacks, it's no worship. You can just you're disrespecting Tua, the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins. Well, he kind of sucked this year.
It's
Yeah.
just so funny. This completely reminds me of when Quentin Tarantino made fun of Bruce. Oh, that Bruce Lee
Oh
scene,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and everybody got
Ooh.
bent out of shape. And I was like, well, maybe it happened.
yeah,
And they're like, what? Bruce would never get beaten up, Mike. Why
Uh,
not? And so I was like, typical myself. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go on the opposite side of this, where it's like, okay, a 200-pound man maybe might have had a good chance against a guy who's 130
yeah,
pounds.
mm.
yeah. It's true, and of
So
course, also through Dan Inosanto, so much of what Bruce Lee said, I'm living and paraphrasing.
mm,
Sometimes I'll say something and then read something over here and say, well, he already said that. It just differently, which is a tribute to everything that he did. And Ed Parker was no slouch either. He had great writings and great ideas, and they just never made a bunch of movies.
Yeah, for sure.
I hosted Guru Dan in my part of the world here twice, and I was blown away at I had to kick two people out for the way they were acting. Like they're just like Guru Dan's trying to get to lunch, and they're like, "What did he have for breakfast?" They were like they're trying to ask him all these questions, and like
Yeah,
literally like they're trying to grab him, and I was like, "You paid for the seminar. You didn't pay to have a private audience." And the guy's in his 80s, man.
yeah,
Like get lost. And
right.
it was crazy how some people and like even every JKD instructor that I know, well, for the most part, they'll talk about him like they're his best friend or he's
Yeah,
regurgitated stories. It's like, well,
yeah,
his favorite sandwich shop where he learned how to do the chisel maneuver for his burger. It's
yeah,
like
Oh my
shut
god.
up.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
just
Oh, that's too funny.
they're just humans. They're humans that, were exceptional in some ways. And
I know.
it's like there's a bunch of Filipino instructors that I met, skill wise, terrifying. As people, I
yeah,
wouldn't let them, within a foot of my house. It
yeah.
just, anyways, that was my rant for the day.
Okay, we got it.
Well, guys, I gotta pick up my kid. So,
Yes, it's time to go.
but
It's
this
been
was
fun.
fantastic. I'm so glad Renee brought you on or reached out to you. This is fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on.
Oh,
You
which
bet.
reminds me, Dean, we got to send them $20.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, yeah. So,
Okay, guys, I'm going to go downstairs and see what the score is. All right.
okay. I
Awesome.
don't want to
Thanks
ruin
for
it for
having me.
you, so I'm not going to tell you. So you go.
Okay. All right. Well, I really don't care. I like Denver too, so it's okay. All
Yeah.
righty. We'll see you. Bye bye.
All right.
Thanks,
You
Hawk.
take care. That was good,
It
man. That was a good
was
one.
really good.
I
I
really
really
enjoyed
enjoyed
that.
that.
Yeah, I had him on. God, I lose track of time, but it was probably 4 years ago.
Wow. I had to change your last name so you couldn't remember.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
that
just
was
in
helpful.
case.
That was helpful. Thank you for doing that. Yes.
He when I first approached him, uh, he's like, "Are you Renee? Like 355 Renee?" And I was like, "Let's not talk about that.
Oh my gosh! So he even heard
Let's."
all the way in Texas. So it reached that far as audience.
Didn't
That's
you
pretty.
see the tattoo on his wrist? It says 355.
Oh, oh my gosh! Wow, I didn't know somebody of that stature. It really resonated with him. That's a
In his office, he's got an antique clock, and he took the springs out and left it at 355.
what does that tell you? Yeah.
I don't know, man. I know what it tells me, but I'm trying to be humble.
I know, and you have done a great job in that humility regarding that. You know what I mean? I have to
It's
appreciate it.
I appreciate that you see my greatness.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's still people that are I see pull over, and then it's due to that, right? I mean, why else are they
At
pulling over?
350, at 355. Never mind the cults that have sprung up in Thailand. But we'll talk about that in another show.
All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reach out to Chad, just confirm from Wednesday. Worst comes to
Okay.
worst, if he can't do Wednesday and has to do the other date, we'll have something to talk about.
I might have a mark lined up. Hey,
Is
what do
that
you think of my nose? I broke my nose. It looks straighter, doesn't it?
it looks? I was gonna say it looks better.
I'm serious.
It looks straight. I'm
It,
serious.
it was like, this is fantastic.
As you can tell, mine's gotten 2 times. It's gotten broken. You can see the knob there. I just never had it straightened or fixed. But yours looks great.
Dude, it was like off to the side. I broke it yesterday. And like my eyes are starting to get a little darker, but I think it looks all right.
I would. I think it looks great. Awesome. All right. Well, hey, we'll be in touch. And
You
thank you.
got it.
That was a great show. Great talk.
That what it was.
Awesome. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
You got it.
Bye. All right, folks, that wraps up episode 34. Yes, Wednesday, Chad Bailey. Hopefully he comes on. He runs an annual camp, which is just fantastic. I've gone for the last 3 years. This year, unfortunately, I cannot make it. One kid's gonna be in Boston. I have to stay home with the other kid. It happens just to fall on February 6th and 7th that weekend. So, oh well, bummer. But at any rate, but you can at least see what he does down there. It's phenomenal. I just think he runs incredible camp. So look for that Wednesday at 7 p.m. Until then, thank everybody that watched and jumped in, and I will see you next time.